Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. David Jockers, and today we're talking about, is the ketogenic diet bad for the microbiome? There's a lot of people out there that say, hey, if you're on this high-fat ketogenic diet, it's not going to be good for your gut health and your microbiome. So we're going to dive into this topic in today's presentation. And if you don't know me, my name's Dr. David Jockers. I'm a doctor of natural medicine. I have a clinic called Exodus Health Center in the Kennesaw, Georgia area, which is right outside of Atlanta. And I specialize in helping people overcome chronic disorders, reduce inflammation, and dramatically improve their health. This is my beautiful wife, Angel, my little boys, David and Joshua. And so when we look at the microbiome, basically it obviously lives in our gut, and it's this just whole host of different microbial species, bacteria, yeast, different types of amoeba, and all different types of organisms. And it can weigh up to 1 to 2 kilograms. That's roughly somewhere between 2.5 to 5 pounds of our own body weight is through these microbes. 95% are located, of course, in the GI tract. There are other mucosal membranes like in the lungs, the sinuses, and on the skin as well, we have a microbiome. The bacteria are 10 to 50 times smaller than our normal human cells, and that's why they outnumber us by 10 to 1. So we actually have 10 times more microbial cells in our body than living cells, living human cells. It's unbelievable. And if you laid end to end our body's bacteria, it would circle the earth 2.5 times. Isn't that unbelievable to even think about? Absolutely incredible. And so when we look at the intestinal flora and what it actually does for us, really about 80% of our body's immune system is particularly in the small intestine, okay, something called the basically the GALT, or the gut-associated lymphoid tissue is this huge physical barrier of immune cells. And so it really plays a key role with that. Also vitamins and nutrients. And so basically when we start to consume food, that food gets into our gut, particularly in our small intestine, and bacteria ferment it. And good bacteria ferment and break it into nutrients that then pass through the small intestine into the bloodstream, and our body can then absorb. Bad bacteria, bad microbes eat our nutrients, and instead they secrete waste products, things we call endotoxins, that actually cause inflammation and damage to the body. And that can affect our metabolism. That can affect our ability to be able to lose weight. In particular, there are types of bacteria called bacteroides, okay? And there are other types called Firmicutes. And typically, Firmicutes are associated with being able to break down fat more effectively than bacteroides. And so basically when that ratio gets out of proportion, it can lead to people being overweight and just also chronic inflammation in general. And then autism. We're going to really dive into some of the research on the intestinal flora and how that relates to autism as well. But ultimately what we need to know is bad gut microbes are going to increase inflammation in our body and equal poor quality of life. And so how does the keto diet impact the gut microbiome? Well, there has been research, particularly in the last 2 years. It's 2018 right now when I'm doing this presentation. And so 2016, we really started seeing some research come out on things like autism, multiple sclerosis, and infantile refractory epilepsy. And so when we look at this study right here, this is the Journal of Molecular Autism in 2016. It says ketogenic diet modifies the gut microbiota in a murine model, which is basically a rat model of autism spectrum disorder. And so they took these rats with basically autism, and they looked at their guts, okay? And what they found was that basically the guts were altered, and the autism spectrum disorder phenotype had a low Firmicutes to bacteroides, so these different species of bacteria ratio. They also had a high level of Akkermansia mucinophilia, which is a very key, very cornerstone bacteria, and they had basically very high levels of it. When they followed a ketogenic diet for roughly 10 to 14 days, okay, then what happened was that they retested, and it showed that they had balanced out their Firmicutes to bacteroides ratio. So basically that had started to balance out. And on top of that, that it reduced the Akkermansia muciniphila populations, which basically what that means is it would reduce gut-associated inflammation, and that inflammation can affect the brain tissue. And so, so it's really, positive results there. Now, how does all this work? So basically, a lot of people think a ketogenic diet is bad for the gut microbiome because it's low in prebiotics. But if you are actually consuming non-starchy vegetables, things like avocados, olives, all different types of things. In fact, you can see all these best prebiotic fiber sources: artichokes, radishes, garlic, celery, nuts and seeds, cucumbers, asparagus, cruciferous veggies, something called shirataki noodles, which is really rich in glucomannan, great prebiotic fiber, leeks, onions, chicory, olives. So all of these kinds of things are going to help the body with prebiotic fuel to support the microbiome. So we can eat tons of these kinds of foods. These are all very, very low carb foods, and many of them are high fat foods that really support our body on a ketogenic diet. And so when we eat those foods, those prebiotics are going to supply our intestinal cells with two major forms of energy. Believe it or not, our microbes themselves will actually produce ketones. Okay, they also produce short-chain fatty acids, and those short-chain fatty acids can almost act as ketones or convert into ketones quickly. Particularly, the most famous one is butyrate. That has a really powerful anti-inflammatory effect on our body. So it really reduces inflammation, and that's going to reduce inflammation in the endothelial lining, improve circulation, and also reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and neurodegenerative conditions in the body. So very, very powerful stuff. Now, this right here is a study that was in the journals of Frontiers in Microbiology. It's July 2017. And they're taking a look at bacteria, colonic fermentation, and gastrointestinal health. Actually, I'm sorry, this is a different study. But there is a study that I didn't actually take the right picture of, but this actually talks about colonic fermentation and gastrointestinal health. But there's a study in Frontiers in Microbiology, July 2017, that took individuals with MS. In fact, they took 25 MS patients, 14 healthy controls. 10 of the MS patients, so multiple sclerosis, received a ketogenic diet for 6 months. And what they showed was that the colonic biofermentation really improved. And what that means is that these individuals had bad bacteria, dysbiosis. And so when they would consume food, that bad bacteria would produce a lot of endotoxins. And these endotoxins would cause inflammation in the body, in particular with MS, cause inflammation along the myelin sheath of the nerves, which would obviously then contribute over time to the development of multiple sclerosis. And a ketogenic diet over a 6-month period of time was able to normalize the concentrations of the colonic microbiome after 6 months of following it. So really, really powerful stuff. And ultimately, this is what we've got to understand here is a ketogenic diet has been shown to reduce the levels of pathogenic bad bacteria that create inflammation in the body and restore a greater level of harmony to the microbiome. And so that's really, really powerful for how that works. And so we're able to now change what happens in our nervous system tissue, because we know that a leaky gut, or really whatever happens in the gut, and they call the gut the second brain, is going to impact our brain. For some people, a lot more than others. For many individuals, gut issues are a major contributing factor to things like anxiety, sleep disorders, headaches, depression, bipolar syndrome, aggression, irritability, and anger. So the gut plays a huge role in all of those types of conditions. And the better that we get the gut microbiome, the better our brain function, our mood, our emotions, all of that kind of stuff, the better we're going to be able to respond. And so this study right here, this is a 2017 study, and I did get the right one here, World Journal of Gastroenterology. And it says the ketogenic diet poses a significant effect on imbalanced gut microbiota in infants with refractory epilepsy. And so we know that basically epileptic kids respond really, really well. In fact, the original research was done starting in the 1920s on a ketogenic diet and how it impacted epileptic kids and reduced seizures. But what they hadn't done was actually looked at what happens to the gut and how the ketogenic diet reshapes the gut in these kids. And so when they looked at these epileptic kids and they compared them to normal asymptomatic kids who didn't have epilepsy. What they showed was that the epileptic kids had a high level of proteobacteria, which would be things like E. coli, pathogenic forms of E. coli, salmonella, vibrio. And that actually accounted for 24.34% of the pediatric patients. These epileptic kids should normally be, roughly 8 to 10%. So it was really, really high amounts. And these epileptic kids, they had a high chronobacter. Okay, so that's a bacteria that impacts something called plasminogen activator and ferric ion transporter protein, which could definitely contribute to more inflammation. And that's really what these kids had, high levels of brain-induced inflammation. And so when they went on a ketogenic diet, it reduced the levels of chronobacter and increased the levels of Prevotella, a different type of bacteria that's a robust producer of short-chain fatty acids. And so it helped balance out, again, their Firmicutes to Bacteroides ratio, which, again, improves with digesting high-fat food and regulates the secretion of interleukin 6 and 17, which are inflammatory mediators, inflammatory immune cells. And so it helps really balance that out. And so real powerful study right here. Again, very recent, 2017. And so ultimately, we've got to remember is healthy digestion. So when we're digesting our food well and we're eating foods that are supportive and easier for our digestion, we're going to have better energy. We're going to assimilate nutrients better detoxification. The better we detox, the better we're going to digest. And it's kind of this cycle right here. And so ketogenic diet can be really effective if done correctly. Now, big mistake and a big issue a lot of people have is they have really sluggish liver and gallbladder. So their bile production, which is necessary for emulsifying fats, is not very good because these organ systems are not working well. And sometimes people have already had their gallbladder taken out. And that's when there are definite strategies that can improve, like using things like apple cider vinegar, ginger tea, lemons, and limes, which really help to stimulate digestive juice production, aromatic herbs, oregano, basil, thyme, things like that, to really support good digestion in general. And that's going to help the body be able to produce these digestive juices. Sometimes we need supportive hydrochloric acid and bile. So we use different supplements to support that. And digestive enzymes can be really, really helpful to take digestive enzymes. And when we look at digestive enzymes, we've got basically different types of digestive enzymes that end with an ACE, and they break down carbohydrates. We have proteases, which break down protein, lipases, which break down fat and fatty acids. And so on a ketogenic diet, we're going to want enzymes that are higher in lipase because, again, we're consuming a higher fat diet. And so that's why we created this product called Keto Digest, which is there's no higher lipase enzyme formula out there on the market. It also has a bunch of digestive bitters, things like ginger and turmeric and different things like that, peppermint, that helps support digestive juice production, bile, lipase, obviously, stomach acid production. So it's got a whole bunch of different things and great soil-based bacteria as well, spore-forming bacteria to help modulate the gut microbiome. We also have something called Ketobiome, which is a higher dose of soil-based microorganisms as well as food-based microorganisms to really help support a strong, healthy microbiome. This is kind of the kind of good bacteria that eat toxins. When we secrete toxins, when we are breaking down food, we're going to obviously take in toxins. And so these kinds of bacteria break down those toxins, and then they help produce B vitamins, vitamin K, all different types of healthy nutrients, amino acids for our body to be able to utilize effectively. So great supplements to help support the gut. And, if you want more information, really a good program to follow when it comes to keto, we do have a great ketogenic diet program that you can check out on my website. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed today's training. And the general lesson here is that the ketogenic diet is going to help reduce bad bacteria and help our body to produce, or basically help our body create a healthy strong, vibrantly alive microbiome, but we've got to do it correctly and we've got to really support the digestive juice production. And that's really the key here. So anyways, we'll see you guys on a future presentation. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment. I always check the comments and respond back. So leave a comment if you have any questions or need anything. Be blessed, guys. Bye-bye.